with visitors who grace your shores. While your children play and are happy to learn your rich history, which the world can't ignore. As she boasts of her might and power, the USA benefited from your generous touch. When she struggled as a new nation, after severance from Britain, Alexander Hamilton came to be senior army officer and the first secretary of the Treasury. When it comes to acting, the world would agree. Cicely Tyson is the queen of the silver screen. Oh, and the beauty of the women born in this land,
without contention,
is so captivating. Admiral Nelson had to take Fanny's hand.
So I sing your praises, my Nevis, that the world would have no doubt. Sweet to live.
The resilience of your people and the talent that they possess is there for all to see.
The accomplishments of Sim Daniel,
by any measure at all, makes him a star.
a bright and shining star.
I believe that research would show that
We have the most intellectuals per capita.
even when we think about balance and the struggles that we face day by day. A little bickering with your sister ought not be all you consider. You've been one with her forever. It can't be just meat alone. Even the sweetest fish has its bones. Still we must be careful with what we do. In any challenge, my bet is on you. Oh, that you mold me to be honorable and diligent.
Upright and fervent.
So if it must be, I will give my life in your defense. Yeah.
So I sing your praises, my Nevis,
And let there be no doubt,
sweet to live.
so when I get over yonder, my name be called with the heroes who defended me.
So I sing your praises, my Nevis.
I stand here to proclaim, though not alone.
I sing your praises, my Nevis.
I boast in you with pride,
My refuge and my home.
Oh yes, you brought forth the great El Camino, Tonito Williams, who paved the way for the rest of the Islanders to follow. And the mastery of the great David Freeman.
Yes, if you tell me, I will tell them that tell me is on.
Did somebody say tell me? Then tell me about it. Tell me with host Carlisle Powell.
There are talk shows, and then there is Tell Me, your very credible source for information. Join us every Thursday night. You certainly won't be disappointed.
Alongside Dr. Kelvin Daly.
Panic and fear, uncertainty that is compounded by a leadership that appears unprepared, uncertain, and indecisive in dealing with the coronavirus pandemic.
And Tulu Weeks.
Until God gets a hold of our Premier's life and transform him he will go from bad to worse.
We are tired of playing politics. We need to see policies that will change the life of people, especially those of us in the diaspora.
Tell me. Carlisle, I want all women in Nevis rally for change.
Every Thursday at 8 p.m., you can be a part of this conversation by calling 669-7312. That's 869-669-7312. Also available on WhatsApp or from the diaspora 917-460-2187.
Every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. with host Carlisle Powell on 2020 Vision Radio and Facebook.
Do you know what you're drinking? If you are drinking plastic bottled water, chances are you're consuming plastic contaminants, BPA, and other hormone-disrupting chemicals you cannot see with your naked eye. Those empty plastic bottles take up to 450 years to decompose. In the meantime, plastic bottles are polluting the environment. They are dangerous to the planet and our health. The safer solution is to acquire your own Kangen alkaline water filtration system, and you'll never have to buy toxic bottled water again. Help save the planet and drink clean water for less than the price you'll pay for acid plastic bottled water over the next few years. The Kangen technology is the world's most popular, most acquired water immunizer. For more information, you can call or WhatsApp us on 917-207-1307. That's 917-207-1307. Change your water, change your life.
This 2020 Vision Radio 102.1 FM program is being simulcast weekly on the Caribbean Broadcast Network, heard on CBN Superstation 90.9 FM, Go Loud Digicel app, covering the entire U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and CBN TV on Flow Channel 101 and on CCT TV Channel 291. We do appreciate our U.S. and British Virgin Island listeners and viewers joining us for these informative and entertaining programs on 2020 Vision Radio and 102.1 FM. The views and opinions expressed on this program are strictly those of the participants and do not represent those of 2020visionradio.com or its advertisers.
Good evening and happy Thanksgiving Day to all of you who are in the Americas, and those of you who are Americans, and those who want to be Americans and eat a lot of food today. And we're with you again from 2020 Vision Radio in Charlestown in Nevis. It's Thursday, and gentlemen, you wouldn't believe the amount of people who have been calling and messaging, wondering if Tell Me is on tonight. Well, it's not Thanksgiving in Nevis. We are still sucking salt, but we're here, and we'll be here with you for at least the next 2 hours. Tulu, how are you doing?
Scripture admonishes us to give thanks, because the goodness of the Lord, His mercy endureth forever and ever. And so I'm indeed giving thanks for the blessings of life, health and strength, food to eat. And again, for another Thursday that I can be in the studio with you two esteemed gentlemen. I will learn something this evening. I'll get some humor. And by the time I leave here, I'll be better than when I came. And I wish all those who are listening, even call Mark Brantley, tell him tune in and listen. He will become a better person if he has a desire for that. Good evening to Mr. Brother Philip, the Swanson clan, Lavanda, how Rhonda doing? Rhonda, Elvan, Sylvia, Helena, Romello, Bayo, Heather. Good night, one and all. Welcome to Tell Me.
And good evening, Dr. Daly. I met Keith. He said Keith from New York. He said, just tell Dr. Daly, it's Keith from New York, he will know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking
and
about.
He gave me a little sugar cake too.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he did.
Oh, that is fantastic. Thank you very much. We're always glad to get donations here for 2020 Vision in particular. And of course, Tell Me and On Target. Thank you in advance. And when I see you, I guess I'll give you a little show kick back. Something. Let me say good evening to all my family. Of course, they're not listening tonight. Most of them probably eating turkey and ham and all that good stuff. But good evening to all of them. especially my sister Eva and Judith up there in Connecticut, my brother Denny and his lovely wife Twilla in New York, my brother Steve in California, and of course my brother Carl down in Atlanta. Wish all of you a blessed Thanksgiving, and all those who are celebrating. My good friend Tonya down in Texas, of course, Jeffers Lewis in Texas also, Romel up in Florida, Loyta Clark Creeley in Florida. I mean, we got good people all over. Joseph Brooks, Shirley Jeffers, right here at home. So good evening to all of you. And we, of course, will have a pleasant conversation. And if you are tuned in on the FM dial, if you're on the Twitch or YouTube, a good evening to you also.
Thanksgiving in America, we have Thanksgiving lunches here in Nevis. I had the company of 3 lovely ladies today at Thanksgiving lunch. My godmother, and I had my aunt, and I had the good Angela Hanley. So we celebrated Thanksgiving by going to lunch, and I felt so much of a proper gentleman in the company of these 3 lovely ladies.
You had to be.
Had to.
Especially Angela Hanley. Oh my
yes,
goodness.
She's my very good friend. Now, in terms of birthdays, I have a whole list of birthdays here. And I was tempted to go with the mayor, Sylvester Pemberton, first. But I'll mention his name first. Sylvester is my good friend. But I had to go with my neighbor first, D. Michelle Liebert Rollins. She's celebrating birthday today. And I know that my good friend Sylvester Pemberton would not mind if I started with my neighbor first. You see, anytime I'm in a group, I hail up Zion people first.
Okay.
So let me go with her first. And then Sylvester Pemberton, the mayor, he used to be the mayor of Cotton Ground. They tell me he's so powerful now, he's the mayor of the whole of Nevis. So he's celebrating today. There is a lady who is a cousin of mine named Tanya. She says she know you very well, Dr. Daly. Tanya Powell. She say her only egg is celebrating today. Tyreek Powell. So want to send out greetings to him as well.
I wouldn't put it quite like that.
That is what she told me. Her only egg.
Her only egg.
Yes.
Her only fertilized egg.
Okay, all right. Mrs. Paulina Busso over there in Butlers is celebrating her birthday today as well. And this week, Paulina and her husband, Nicholas Busso, celebrated 63 years of marriage.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's too much.
So I'm reaching out and saying happy anniversary and happy birthday. As we continue down the list, my good friend over there in St. Kitts, Cedric Liebert, is celebrating tomorrow. Winston Papa Paris is next week Wednesday, as well as a friend of mine in Antigua, Purnell Watley. And Andrea Nichols is celebrating as well on Wednesday of next week. And on my sheet of paper, I have from my good friend Kevin. He and I fell out, but I think we grew back. He wants to send advanced birthday greetings to his baby cousin Jair Sargent, who is celebrating on the 28th, and another cousin who is Carrie Daniels celebrating on the 29th. But before that, we have Hyacinth Forbes on the 27th. Tulu, our own Tulu and Mrs. Weeks on the 27th celebrating an anniversary. And then Tulu's son, Eugene and Mrs. Titlan Weeks celebrating a day before on the 26th. So those are anniversary greetings. Tulu, I know it's a lot of years. You're close to 40, ain't it?
Oh, 38th.
30, okay, 38. All right. Well, we want to say Daly and I combined would make 38.
No, you have to divide,
more.
You have to divide 38 by.
Tell him
9 to get 9.
All right, sir. And so those are the celebrants we have. And before I go any further, let me just back up and say good night, happy Thanksgiving to sisters Mary and Mervet in America, and down there in St. Thomas is Sister Irma, and then Everett, my big brother, is across in Tartola, and Trevor is here in Nevis. So we want to reach out and say hello to all of Mario's children and hope that you're doing well. And those in America, hope that you didn't overeat and you didn't put on too much weight today. The birthday song, gentlemen?
Okay. Well, Tulu, since you are celebrating your anniversary, perhaps you would like to do a
Daily,
soul.
pull the mic right close to you because you're the lowest. I don't know.
I don't know either because this thing is all the way up. And I can't, usually harder than this, but I don't. Let me try and unplug this and plug it back in. Okay, that sounds a little better, right? That sounds a little better.
And all the volumes are up here for us.
Yeah, it's always something on a Thursday night. But so it is. We're going to get through it nonetheless. Anyway. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And as usual from us in the studio, may you live to be 101 and us 101 minus a day so we don't have to see you go. May God continue to bless you with good health, strength, and of course, wealth.
And I like to tell people, get your greetings in early because, sometimes we come here on a Thursday and somebody tell us, well, you missed so-and-so during the week.
I see Charlene Jeffers just said her son is celebrating, Miguel. Her son Miguel is celebrating tomorrow. Happy birthday, Miguel.
You tell us early so we can get your greetings in. We'd want to wish you well. A lot has happened, gentlemen. We had triple shooting yesterday in St. Kitts, in St. Peter's.
2 fatalities.
They tell me 2 of the gentlemen passed away. And had a conversation with my friend Cedric Laibot because these guys live on his street, one directly in front of him. So these are people who he know and so on. So listen, I don't know if there is a cure for bad mind. But you want to urge people to use common sense. I mean, you have an argument with somebody, that is no reason for you to say, well, let me pull out a gun and let me go shooting people, because you can't breathe new life into them and say, listen, I was vexed with you for so and so, that's why I shot you. But I changed my mind and not vexed now, so come back to life. You can't do that. So we are urging people to be a little bit more restrained in terms of their reaction to stuff. Because, a lot of these fellows who get shot and stabbed and so on could be collateral damage.
Yeah, it's always a sad situation, and it's even sadder when persons try to make political hay out of it. It's always a tragedy when young people lose their lives. I don't know the circumstances behind it. I was seeing a post early this morning from the leader of the PAM, followed quickly by another press release by the Prime Minister. And so, I wish you would just try to recognize these are tragedies that not everything need to be politicized, because it reaches out there in the world stage, and next thing you know, you get a black eye as a country. Let us try to be a little more civil about such matters.
I noticed the statements which came from Dr. Timothy Harris and from Sean and so on. I want to play a little clip that the Premier, in his capacity as Premier and leader of the opposition, made. But before that, let me just say good night, good evening to the Francis family there in New York. My niece Tanika sent me a picture. You fellows on the big screen at the Francis family dinner, eh?
Really?
Yes, she sent me a picture and we on the big screen.
Who are there?
Well, she didn't show me who were there, but just know that you're on the big screen. So they're having dinner, but they're listening and watching. Tell me.
So while they eat, while they bite, we swallow. Thank you very much, Francis family. All right,
it's good to be there and to be recognized.
Okay, let me see if I can get the Premier. Chesley Manners is celebrating on the 26th. Just saw this come in, so we have to put that in the system so that next year we will remember. Chesley, happy birthday to you when it comes on the 26th. Let me see if I can find this gentleman and hear what he has to say about crime. I think I now have him loaded and ready to go. So let me hit play.
It means that we need to go back and have another look at this. I have said publicly that the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, he needs to step above and beyond the politics. And even though there are some out there now who every time there is an act of violence, they put out a press release as if there's something to be celebrated. I feel that the better approach, which can only come from the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, is to reach out to all stakeholders, including the opposition, and to say, listen, if we love this country as we say we do, and let us put aside the PAM politics and the CCM and the NRP politics and the PLP politics.
And
the Labour politics. And I can't remember the other name, the party, MRI, MR something in Nevis politics. They put aside all of that. And let us get together and see how we can work together. All of us singing from the same hymn. I hope the member of the press see how many times I've made that reference, because I like the idea of singing from the same hymn, being in the same pew. There are some things, and I mentioned about CBI some weeks ago, that I did not agree with the approach by some to destroy it. I will not join them in that. I also do not agree with the approach now to politicize crime. And I say that as somebody who spent quite some years in opposition. And I used to be a very vigorous as a young politician. I fell into that same approach. Oh, it's your job to secure. With the benefit of age and wisdom, I have come to realize that it is our job. And this is not to absolve the Prime Minister and the government of their responsibility, because the buck stops with them. But sometimes, when we say it is their job, we ignore what we ourselves need to be doing.
Gentlemen, this is the same person, and Mark is difficult to understand, difficult to dissect. I believe that if I were one of those people who specialize in care and who do surgical operations, and I were to get inside of Mark, I wouldn't be able to help him because the amount of shit inside him, you would not be able to make a determination as to how to fix him. This is the same man who came out with the 10-point plan. And you notice how he is trying to absolve himself. I was younger, and I didn't quite understand that it is all of our business. And I'm paraphrasing and putting in what I want to put in. But all of a sudden, no. That problem is not just for the Prime Minister. This is a man who sent out a 10-point plan as leader of the opposition.
And then an 8-point plan.
Exactly. He wasn't a spring chicken, When he sent out that 10-point plan for Dr. Douglas,
he was in Parliament.
He was in Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
He was already hardened. But as far as he was concerned, he was in the opposition, go after Dr. Denzil Douglas. But all of a sudden now, he's in the opposition still. He's leader of the opposition. But no.
Can't criticize.
Can't criticize Dr. Joe.
Can't.
Can't.
And there lies the rub and the real story. There lies the rub and the real story. He cannot, even if in the simplest terms, he cannot dare bite the hand that's feeding him. All right? But let's get back, because he made it seem as if murders are only happening on St. Kitts.
Mm-hmm.
That is not just a responsibility. What he said, he's just not the responsibility of the Prime Minister. As if there are no murders on Nevis. There have been murders on Nevis just a couple of weeks ago. Our young friend from Lost Street lost his life. That was a murder. Then we had several others before that in Bath and then down there in Yukot. We have had murders on Nevis. So to pontificate about the loss of life being somehow only on St. Kitts, and that we should not be criticizing or politicizing what's happening on St. Kitts as if Nevis is absolved and his government is absolved, it's ridiculous. right? And this cry for me, young. I was young and stupid. My brother, you're still young. You're still stupid, but you're no longer young. You understand? You are still, you need help. Because I've never seen a man. Is it, a kind of lizard they call a chameleon, Tulu? You know what a chameleon is?
They change their color.
Depending on what background,
they change.
They change the color. Yeah. So they're going to go from brown to green to bronze to blue, whatever color. Right? Whatever suits the mood. That is him. And so this whole cry that we should not politicize, when he has been the architect of politicizing a crime, he should not be talking. Really and truly, he should not be talking. One man in this world should not be talking about crime and politicizing crime. It's him.
The first thing he should have done before he made those utterances that he made was to apologize to the people of the Federation. Because here we had a man, and we cannot excuse him, that whenever there was a crime in the Federation, or just a little scuffled argument, he found every media page that he could have found, every radio station he could have gone on throughout the region to let everybody know that there's crime on the island. This is a man who I heard blame C.G. Waldwin for crime, blame Douglas, blame Joseph Parry, blame Hensley Daniel, blame basically everybody. But now, Dr. Daly, you're absolutely correct. Now that he is in a position where his behind is against the wall and he has to be dependent, he's changing his message that he is this holy individual. Listen, as much crime and as bad as crime is, with the guns and the knives and the sticks, telling lies upon people is equal, according to my Bible, to shooting a man with an arrow, busting their head with an axe, chopping them up with a cutlass, is the very same thing. And so some commit murder with guns and knives and sticks, and some commit murder with their tongue. It is the very same murder, according to the Bible that I read. And so this guy is just, let me leave him here because he's a dark soul. He's a narcissist. He's a pathological liar. He represents a very, very grave danger to anybody who is around him, and only a matter of time before they find out.
Had NRP been in power and those few murders in Nevis occurred, he would have been on the soapbox.
All over.
He'd have been on his radio program. He'd have been writing on Facebook and saying how NRP is not doing anything about crime. I guarantee you that.
That's a guarantee.
So this Johnny come lately attitude that he is now graduated into wisdom.
What wisdom?
Come on.
Listen to the tone of voice. You could hear the smoke because he knew he knew what he did in the past. He understood loud and clear that he was the chief architect of degrading others.
You remember last week, Carlisle, you made a point that your son made, and we all been making, that Mark is opposing the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
The leader of the opposition is opposing the opposition. You have two senior opposition members in the parliament in St. Kitts, in Dr. Harris and Mr. Sean Richards. He is the leader of the opposition on St. Kitts.
He is the leader.
He is the leader of the opposition on St. Kitts. And he has yet to oppose anything the Prime Minister has said, or done, or not said. It's incredulous. I don't know how much farther up into the intestines of the Prime Minister he's going to crawl. Because he's scratching his pancreas right now.
If it is one time I'm going to give him credit, it's for what he's doing. Because the first meeting of the new administration, it was October last year, it was the first meeting, after they got into office. But the first meeting of the House, he made it abundantly clear then that he is not going to oppose the government. He's not there to oppose the government. Okay? He's there to support the government. And he has kept his word because he has been supporting the government all the way through. I don't know if it's because he felt or he understood that he will have to be leaning up to the government for his survival. But I'll give him credit. He has kept his word.
My friends in America, I know you just ate, but I'm going to give you a little diet of Mark tonight. So I want you to get used to it. This next clip I'm going to play for you, he's trying to justify the reasons why they went to Parliament, and he has not granted the courtesy to the leader of the biggest opposition vote-getting machinery in Nevis to select a person to be on the Integrity Commission. I deliberately lined up this second because in the first clip about crime, you heard him justifying why it should be an all-parties approach, including the opposition. He said that.
Yes.
The Prime Minister must have an all-parties approach, including the opposition. Listen to him in this clip explaining why Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge could not be given the courtesies to select the person to sit on the Integrity Commission.
I've tried to make a comparison to when Mr. Perry was there. I say there's no comparison for two reasons. One, Mr. Perry was a mature representative for the people of St. Thomas's.
Jesus.
What do I mean by that?
I'm going to stick a pin right there. Janice is in her early 60s. Her numbers begin with 6.
Mm-hmm.
She's not mature.
And she's well seasoned into the world of business and work.
Exactly.
You know,
management.
So
the only thing different here is that this man has absolutely no grasp of what it is to be a mature politician himself.
I think he's trying to insult Dr. Hodge. I think
But he has always been trying to do that.
He has some kind of issues with women in power. You know, this kind of chauvinistic machismo that he displays. I mean, to say that, you know, Joseph Parry is a mature politician and therefore the courtesy was granted to him and not Janice, who just came into the parliament. I mean, that's condescending.
Absolutely.
Insulting.
So why is he granting courtesies to Dr. Drew? Dr. Drew didn't just come into parliament?
Just now.
Let's go ahead with a little bit more.
Mr. Perry understood why he was in politics. He understood that he had a duty to represent his people. And when you're in the opposition, you can do so most effectively by ensuring that you have open dialogue with the government. And so Mr. Perry and I spoke all the time. He has visited my office more than once. And whenever there was an issue, he and I engaged. He would call me on behalf of his constituents. So-and-so needs so-and-so done. This is the position. And he and I were able to have that. Not because we are friends, not because we are cousins, but because we are mature and we understand the assignment. And the assignment is to represent people.
Beg you.
Stop. Right there.
That's the argument of a con man.
That's not the totality of the tape. But I want to stop right there. Because I don't know if the people of Nevis understand where Mark Brantley is trying to take Nevis and the people of Nevis. He's saying that as the premier, as somebody who at every single chance has tried his best to insult the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, who has been talking out the two sides of his mouth about what he saw as wrongdoing when she worked in the Virgin Islands. And even going to the extent at one time having his people, hinting to his people and having them repeat that she couldn't go to America. Mm-hmm. But she was on Capitol Hill last week. Mm-hmm. By the way, Capitol Hill is not in Zion. It's in America. This man, having tried to insult her at every chance, he's saying, call my office.
come to my office. Later on in this same tape, he's saying she has never written to him. But I know differently.
We all know differently. We all know differently.
They all know differently.
So she is supposed to come on her knees.
Yes.
Begging and pleading. Oh, yes, master. Yes, sir, master. Whatever you say, master. No. Janice has written to him on matters. I know that for a fact. You all know that for a fact. Right? But every chance he gets, he maligns the woman. He maligns her character, at least tries to. He took a threat of a lawsuit against him for him to stop. He went on to the Virgin Islands and repeated that same thing in the campaign, that Dr. Hodge somehow had nefarious dealings and couldn't go back to the Virgin Islands or to any U.S. territory. He, at every turn, insinuated that she is unfit for office, that she's not an equal partner, that she's not deserving to be in parliament. And yet, on the other hand, she must come to him. She must come to him. But who was the premier? If he realized something is not amiss, and you know what he said? In the same very press conference, you know what he said? When I want anything done or said, I ask the former representative from St. James. He does not engage the true parliamentarian from St. James. He engages his former parliamentary representative from St. James. What does that mean? Who in their right mind will now go take that circumstance and go sit down with him, knowing how he feels about her personally and professionally? It's craziness. So he has insulted Mr. Parry over the years. The last time Mr. Parry spoke on a matter, he said Mr. Parry old. He need to go sit down. The same Mark Brantley. The same Mark Brantley, they said Mr. Parry old, you need to sit down. No, you're going to say, oh, Mr. Parry is a statesman and he understands the assignment. But what's wrong with this man? What is wrong with this man?
No, go ahead, that's my bad.
No, it's just so insulting for me to sit here and listen to this garbage from one man who is the most divisive politician Nevis has ever seen. A man who was pit brother against sister, father against mother, household against household. And now he's trying to put, the people of Nevis against Dr. Hodge. But that ain't gonna work. He's trying to justify what cannot be justified. He's trying to say to people of Nevis, the opposition gave me no choice but to do what I want to do. To water down an already weak piece of legislation that would hold him and his government to account, among others. How insulting can one man be? How condescending can one man be? I've never seen this level of condescension from a so-called mature politician, like he said he is. He's matured. Well, how is he matured? How is this maturity? When every chance you get, you throw stones at our leader. You throw shade at our leader. How is this mature?
And then he comes at a press conference and he says, in the answer to crime, the question of crime, it needs an all parties approach, including the opposition. Well, Mr. Brantley, so if you are over in your yard and you're constantly throwing rubbish over your fence into my yard, and then there is a problem with respect to waste management, and you say, listen, let's come clean up, start over in my yard first. You expect me to come?
No.
Come have some
Something
soup.
is wrong with him.
Come have some soup.
Come have some soup and then let's talk.
Let's talk. Or some soup. After you don't throw garbage in my yard, and the worst kind of garbage, it is unconscionable that people listen to this garbage. I mean, this man I don't know what going to become of him. I think, by the time he exits the stage here on Nevis, he will have to exit Nevis because he's going to end up alone and broken for the kind of nonsense he has done to people over the years.
Let's take a little break, gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to have to look at some more of his utterances. Back right after this.
Do you know what you're drinking? If you are drinking plastic bottled water, chances are you're consuming plastic contaminants, BPA, and other hormone disrupting chemicals you cannot see with your naked eye. Those empty plastic bottles take up to 450 years to decompose. In the meantime, plastic bottles are polluting the environment. They are dangerous to the planet and our health. The safer solution is to acquire your own Kangen alkaline water filtration system, and you'll never have to buy toxic bottled water again. Help save the planet and drink clean water for less than the price you'll pay for acid plastic bottled water over the next few years. The Kangen technology is the world's most popular, most acquired water immunizer. For more information, you can call or WhatsApp us on 917-207-1307. That's 917-207-1307. Change your water, change your life.
Let us put our hands together for Papa Wheeler.
Okay, Papa Wheeler, stick a pin. We're going to come back to you a little bit later. But we want to go back down to the parliament down there. And I must tell you that I just wish that Dr. Bartlett had told me that she was going down there to protest, because I would have gone to.
You know what? I thought about it long and hard. And I'm glad nobody went with her. I'm happy that she stood and showed the people of Nevis the metal she's made out of. That she's willing to stand here by herself and face this by herself rather than have a crowd around her. She is the minister in waiting for St. John's. And she has demonstrated through a singular action that she's ready for prime time. That she is ready for prime time. If persons had gone there, in my estimation, the crowd would look good, but it would have diluted the effect that she is ready for prime time. Because people are seeing the crowd and not seeing her in particular.
You have a point.
And so I am glad she put on her shoes and her clothes and she walked with a placard and she went and she stood to face this giant by herself.
I do not know how much she listened and admired Mr. Mandela, but that is one of the things Mandela said, exactly what she did. As a leader, there are times that you have to step out on a road all by yourself, convinced that you are correct. Go along with you by yourself. Eventually, others are going to come along, catch you up on the road and join you. And I think that is exactly what Mandela did, how she did her life, and I admire her for what she did. But if I had known, I would have been there too.
I would have gone to. Delhi, let's go inside the parliament. The first thing we want to say is that the Nevis Island administration went to parliament with these amendments. What are they essentially seeking to do? They are seeking to dilute the integrity in public life matter, so that all of the commissioners will now be chosen basically by the government, by the premier. One of the persons will be chosen by the Deputy Governor General. I know Mrs. Leibert very well. I taught in the classroom next to her at Ivor Walters. And so I want to say to you, Mrs. Labor, I hope that you're independent. And I hope that you understand what is happening and what has happened. So I want to make it easy for you, Mrs. Labor. Since you're independent and you want to see and hear a voice from the opposition, choose Carlisle Powell. Nominate me to sit on the Integrity Commission. And I would say yes. And I would go there and I would do a very good job of representing the people of Nevis and the Integrity Commission. People say they believe that she is going to be independent and fair. I'm going to make your job easy. See, I put up my hand. Choose me.
Well, you see, what I understand from the reading, and it's a bit of it seems to be a bit confusing to me, because there are two interpretations that I've heard. I'm not certain which is the correct one. I have to see the exact draft, because what is being reported is a little bit different from what I anticipate should be the case. What I'm understanding is that the Deputy Governor General comes into play if the two members opposite cannot choose somebody from among themselves. Then she, on the advice of the Premier, will make that choice. That is what I understand it to say. I stand to be corrected on that.
But you don't want any advice of the Premier.
You don't want any advice.
And the advice of the Premier simply means that three of us are here.
It's the Premier that chooses them.
And the Premier selects somebody and tell you, this is your choice, you just endorse this.
Let me tell you something. There is a legal opinion put out by the Integrity Commission, some lawyer, high-flung lawyer they hired, to examine the same question. And that opinion came back that in the absence of a constitutional amendment to deal with the fact that you don't have a leader of the opposition, then the Deputy Governor General will consult or should consult with the person with the most votes, which is the NRP, and make a choice. All right? What I'm saying to the commissioners right now, the two existing commissioners, one appointed by the Premier, Mr. Newton, and one appointed by the Deputy Governor General, Mr. Keynes, the chairman. I would say this without any reservation. If I was the chairman or the person selected by the Premier, and having now seen the sight of this bill, these amendments, I would have resigned. I'll hand in my resignation in protest, because it's not just the appointment of the commissioners. You have two or three other infractions that are deleterious to the Integrity Commission. One is the fact that you do not longer have to submit any attending documents to prove what you said in your disclosure. Meaning, if you say you got $10 in the bank, you no longer have to have a bank statement to prove that. If you say I have a piece of land, you no longer have to present a COT to prove it. You simply have to take an oath and say, what I disclose is true. So it makes the job of the Integrity Commissioners very difficult, almost impossible to do. The third amendment, which is less obscure, more obscure than the others, is the term limits. You have gone from a 5-year term for the commissioners to a 3-year term, basically halving the time from which they can serve. Why? The only reason why is because just in case there is some sort of investigation that is not going in favor of the government, 2/3 majority say stop the investigation, get rid of the commissioner, bring somebody who can help you out. But people are not talking about these other two. We are singularly focused on the first one. But those two are just as bad, in my estimation. Right? And so the commissioners who sit there, you cannot sit at a table called Integrity in Public Life and having this disingenuous attack on the commission. They should resign in protest to this. Otherwise, what are you sitting on? What really are you sitting on? It cannot be anything of integrity when you know for a fact what the Premier is trying to do is destructive to the idea of integrity. Then that would make what does that say about you and your position? What does it say about your own integrity? when you're being imposed on by a force that doesn't want integrity, then you should resign. And so I'm asking Mr. Keynes publicly, I'm asking Mr. Newton publicly, walk away from this, my brothers. Walk away from this. And the persons out there in civil society, the church groups, evangelical and Christian council, and all these people who believe in righteousness and truth, they should be talking about this nonsense that's happening to this country. But of course, they will not. They will not. And it's a shame.
I followed and I keep follow dictators around the world. And one of the things that they have in common is that they did not just rose up one day and change everything. They begin to change and take away bit incremental, bit by bit, until they took over the whole thing. And this is what we are having here. We are having the signs of a dictator starting very small, and he will come when he take this. He's going to take something else, and he's going to take something else until he takes over the entire system, control it by himself. But we should have seen sign of this, because the first day that he became premier, one of the first things that he did, one of the first policy that he brought into being, that when he walk into any government offices, that the workers there should stand up when he enters. The first premier, he's the fourth of the premiers that we had, right? Fourth. And he's the only one who introduced that policy.
Well, let me tell you something too. Put on my mic, Colin. Let us look at this logically. The easiest thing to have done to advance democracy, especially in a case like this, for which this is the second time in 2 election cycles we've had a single member in the opposition. So it's not a one-off. It's been happening. And
it happened with CCM too.
It happened with CCM too. All right? And so the logical thing to have done, and because it can be repeated in the future, and chances are it will by the next election, they will be in the minority. And so it makes more sense to me, gentlemen, to try to amend the Constitution to make provisions for the same exact scenario when there's one sitting member in the opposition. Or like we have now, we have 2 on different sides. But there must be an amendment to the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis to address this finally, without any interference, through ordinances and amendments by the NIA. And you must understand that the reason why the Premier picked on this IPL, right, is because it's an easy low-hanging fruit. An easy low-hanging fruit to get his way. To take out the last tooth out of the Integrity Commission.
Dr. Daly, let me tell you what troubled me about the second, going back to Parliament with this bill as they did, this ordinance as they did. When they went to Parliament the first time and they adjourned, the understanding of those of us who followed the discussions was that they were adjourning for public consultations.
Exactly
That's
right.
what they said.
Exactly right.
That was the reason that was given.
That's what they said.
No, I thought that, okay, first reading, public consultations, let them hear from the people exactly what the thinking was. And I thought at least one town hall meeting. And then they could go to Parliament and they say, we had a town hall meeting at XYZ place. Put it at some obscure place at 11 o'clock in the night when a lot of people can't come. But at least say that you had it. Let people express themselves. But there were some expressions before the Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
It is my thinking that the CCM administration ran like hell from the people on this matter. That they had no desire to have any consultations.
Every single opinion was going against them on this. Every single opinion, except those persons who sit with them, were against this. the regular man and woman on the street who understood and who understands the purpose of an IPLC, Integrity in Public Life Commission, IPC. All those people who said, I can't find one person outside of the realm of CCM cabinet that agreed with this. I listened to, painfully so, to my good friend Troy Lyman trying to explain. And it's time I can't get back in my life. Painful. Painful. You know, I don't know how anybody in their right mind, including the Deputy Governor General, including the existing chairman and the other commissioner, how people can simply absorb this and think it's normal. It is not. This is an attack on the Integrity Commission. It's an attack on democracy, all things you hold dear, by one man and his legal advisor who crafted this nonsense. A legal advisor who is living and paying him rent for accommodations. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. How can you have this matter being heard under the hammer of the leader of the house, the speaker of the house, who works for the man?
Integrity.
Integrity.
Or lack thereof.
These are the kind of tentacles, this kind of octopus, by reaching into everybody's pockets and into their minds and controlling them. How can this be in a democracy where things are supposed to be accountable and transparent? That you have a man who was corrupted from Tut Mumamsan come down the line, and nobody's saying nothing about it, nobody's taking action about it, nobody's walking away from this? I mean, how people live with themselves? How do you live with yourself knowing that you're being compromised? How do you live yourself knowing that this can't be right, but you're continuing to support in silence? How can I listen, gentlemen, I get agitated from these kind of things. I really agitated from these kind of things. So sometimes you gotta calm me down a little bit, because I just get furious when it comes to the people's business, when it comes to the privileges that we enjoy as a democracy, where people can speak their mind openly, where people can protest, where people should have the rights and protections afforded to them under our constitution.
We're going to lose it.
Then we have persons who can make a difference and make a change, refuse to stand up and be counted.
Gentlemen,
I'm just one little man. We are all just little fish in a big pond. Right? But if the right people want to say enough is enough, I'm stepping away from this. This government going to change.
In 2017, this bill was passed in 2013. There was no action on that. 2017 election, Joseph Farry was the only seat winner for the NRP. When they brought this matter, when they actioned the matter, it would have been back in 2018. NRP still had one seat. What is so different between then and now with NRP with one seat, because one jumped off the boat, so there is one seat for NRP. The same one seat that Joseph Parry represented for the NRP. But Joseph Parry was consulted and allowed to pick somebody on the commission.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark Brantley is making the point that Parry used to talk to me. That Parry used to visit my office. That Parry had an open line of communication with me. Up to now, he has not said anything about the interest of the people of Nevis and the interest of Nevis.
And interest of democracy.
Exactly. He has not said that, listen, because when I am gone, I am out of politics, and the history books are written, I want my legacy to be that I was fair and impartial. And so I am allowing the very exact same thing to happen. The leader of the party that got the most votes in opposition, you must choose. No, he's not saying that because Janice don't talk to me.
He has personalized it.
Very much so.
He has personalized it as if Janice is the unto herself. Janice is not unto herself. Janice is a representative for the people of St. James and the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party. So that respect must be afforded. That respect must be granted. Regardless how you feel about her personally. You have to grant that. Because, you see, without, in any democracy, in any, to a government to function properly, you need a credible opposition. You need a strong opposition. All right? For it to, the leader of the opposition is a constitutional position. People must understand this. It's not something you make up every budget. It is a constitutionally provided for position with funding for an office and staff. It tells you the significance of that office. But no, she ain't come talk to me. Blah, 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 blah. And so I ain't gonna study she. Come on, man. And then you talk about everybody should be sitting down and singing Kumbaya. Get a life, man.
That's empty talk. But I mentioned, I think it was last week I mentioned or the week before, that the issue here has little to do with politics. The issue here has everything to do with his personal vendetta towards Janice, and not just Janice, to the rest of Simeon Daniel children except one. This is something that runs deep. Somehow he seems that he wants them to be coming, crawling, and begging him. And it's not going to happen. So this has nothing to do with politics. This is personal. But when we come to the political side of it, in the democratic world, and Carla spoke about it last week, Mayor Motley is one of the most respected politicians in the democratic world, wherever you go. She found herself in a position where she had all the seats. So the precedence has been set. And what she said, hey, in the face of democracy, even though the Constitution gives me the right to do all of these things, because she's a decent woman, because she's upright, because she's a woman of integrity, a woman of character and class, she said, no, this is not right, this is not fair. And so she made sure that there's an opposition who can contribute and sit on all the commissions that they do. Good governance. The Premier of Nevis is not interested in anything when it comes about good governance. And we must ask the question, what does he have to hide?
Let me ask you this. Let me tell you this. It's not just about the IPL or IPC. It's not about just that. When you don't have a leader of the opposition, people must understand the significant loss to the parliamentary debate, significant loss to a democracy. As the leader of the opposition, you are chair of the Public Accounts Committee, by far the most powerful committee there is. You also have a say in the Boundaries Commission. You also, of course, lead the opposition from an office staffed with persons who can assist in providing you the kind of documentation, research, and presentation that you are required to do on behalf of the people. And since we are still a member of the Commonwealth, to represent the King.
Don't forget, the budget is coming up next month. I think they say it's the 5th.
The 5th.
The leader of the opposition gets equal time to respond.
Okay. So it's just not just the IPC. There's a lot of things associated with being the leader of the opposition. And if Mr. Brantley was interested in democracy, if Mr. Brantley was interested in making sure that the office of the opposition is functional and the people of Nevis are getting what they constitutionally, and I keep using the word constitutionally because it's important people understand, this is a position guaranteed in our constitution. And the question then becomes, why hasn't this government seen fit to introduce legislation in the federal parliament to amend the constitution. You don't need to go to a referendum. It's simple. You introduce the bill to fix this thing. You put the language in it. Simple majority, it carries.
It's not going to happen.
1, 2, 3. What bothers me, gentlemen, is that his colleagues on the other side of the shark-infested waters in Parliament and are mum on this. They are mum on this. It's incredible to me that this platform here on 2020 Vision Radio is the only platform that seems to be championing the cause for democracy in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, vis-a-vis Nevis. I didn't hear this conversation on any other radio station. Not the one on Nevis for sure. Not the one on those on St. Kitts. All those talk shows. Nobody touching this. What, we got leprosy? We are non-person non grata? The affairs of Nevis. Where's Astefan on this? He always commenting about everything else. Where's he on this?
Let me throw something in the mix, gentlemen, because there is a lot which is not seen and heard, but which you have to read into. And part of that is this whole geothermal debate that you have heard going on. And let me back up and let me say a couple of things. A resolution was introduced in the federal parliament at the last sitting this week. And I'll play it for you so that you can hear. And the Premier, Mark Brantley, is making much of a letter that he said that Nevis requested from the previous Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris. Why is this letter important? This letter, as I explained last evening on another show, with Murray Show, this letter, which I will call a letter of comfort, was never required by the NRP under Joseph Barry. You know why? Because the whole approach is different. When you look at the whole issue of water, and I want to tie in the water and the geothermal, the whole issue of water exploration and finding water and putting water into the system in Nevis, the NRP approach to BEAD was, you find the water, you connect the water, you test the water to make sure it is good, you connect the water to our system. We are interested in up to 1 million gallons of water per day, for which we will pay you an agreed price. The CCM approach is different. We have $10 million. We want to drill wells. They're not sure if the wells will find water that is good. $10 million, drill wells until the money done, and then if you find water, even if it is a limited quantity of water, the $10 million done. The NRP approach was different. We want 1 million gallons of water. You explore at your cost. You buy the pipes and the pumps. Connect that to our nearest reservoir at your cost, and then we pay you. And we are willing to pay you for 10 years. By which time you should have made back your money, made a little something. With respect to geothermal, and I want people to understand carefully why CCM needed a letter from the Prime Minister. They needed that letter from the Prime Minister to go to the Caribbean Development Bank because they were looking at loan. $17 million loan from the Caribbean Development Bank. And the CDB said, listen, we do not recognize Nevis as an entity. We need a letter of comfort, which is in fact like a guarantee from the federal government. And for some strange reason, Timothy Harris was not providing that letter. I don't know if Timothy was trying to negotiate a piece of the geothermal action or how big a piece of the geothermal action, but I can say to you that Joseph Parry never requested a letter of comfort because it was not necessary. We were not looking alone. West Indies Power Limited were doing the explorations at their cost. And so there was never a question of, listen, we need $17 million, we need 200 million, whatever it is. And so Dr. Douglas at the time, please provide this letter for us. Not necessary. You see the difference?
But
CCM don't understand these kind of little things.
But I'm confused, Carl. I'm terribly confused about something. I spent most of this morning going through all the newspaper articles, Facebook articles about the geothermal development and EBS. Reams and reams of articles from since 2013 going all up to present. And in all of those documentations, I never once saw any request from the NIA to the federal government.
Because it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
I was waiting to say that.
And then the funny thing is, every conversation started and ended the same way. That they are in a power purchase agreement with Nevis Renewable Energy International, NREI. And NREI will be doing the exploration, NREI will be building the plant, NREI will be doing the distribution to the power plant here on Nevis, and then the government will get a 12% stake, 12.5% stake, and 10% royalties, or something along that line. So if NREI, and you recall recently that he did say, when the question was asked, why is NREI not delivering? He said that in the last stages of negotiations, you remember that conversation? Mm-hmm. They are in the last stages of negotiations, and hopefully they will get their funding and will get on the board. I never once heard him say that the NIA was interested or seeking a letter or loan through the federal government's good graces for geothermal. We were thinking all along that NREI was the principal provider of funding for their project. What if they were looking funding from CDB? What was the funding to do? What really was the funding to do? What was it for? If NREI was indeed the principal partner in this deal, I know that we were supposed to provide on lease the land, some almost 70 acres of land. I don't know why so much land, but it's in some agreement there. We were in agreement to buy the power from them for, at the first instance, 19 US cents per kilowatt hour. We were in agreement that they would control the resource for a number of years, I think it's 15 or 20 years. I remember all of that, but I don't recall any requests for funding from the NIA, and I don't know for what reason why they're looking funding. You know, so today I would have did some more digging and asked some questions, and the answers I got weren't reassuring, because let us just say that NEVLEC, which is supposed to be the principal partner on the NIA side, were in the dark about a lot of things.
A lot of things.
And that shocked the hell out of me, that your technical department was in the dark about a lot of things. Only heard about it by and by. You know? And so, it is shocking.
Dr. Daleen, all the discussions that we had, whether it was discussing power purchase agreement, whether it was the Geothermal Act or whatever, the person in charge of NEVLEC at that time, Mr. Cartwright Farrell, was always around the table. Always. We have moved from then onto a stage now where it seems as if, I heard him say that Wakely Daniel, his permanent secretary, was off in Saudi Arabia to talk about geothermal. Mm-hmm. He's going to Colombia to talk about geothermal, but remember he was already in England talking about geothermal many years ago. Nothing has come of those. What about NEVLEC and the people at NEVLEC?
Listen. And it seems inevitable at this point in time, because what I understand, the conversation between SCELEC and NEVLEC are in advanced stage. All right, they're now working out, trying to assemble a working group of both general managers, both the high-level technical people, to deal with the logistics of providing geothermal for both St. Kitts and Nevis. What I understand, the plan is to have 2 legs going to St. Kitts, one from Charlestown here, going to Bastia, and one from Keys Bay going to the peninsula. And then the island of St. Kitts, the entire island of St. Kitts and Nevis have to be ringed with a new power grid with substations and etc., etc., etc. And that the total cost could very well be close to $1 billion EC for the entire project of St. Kitts and Nevis to be electrified with geothermal power from Nevis. The question then becomes, if St. Kitts is paying the piper, that of course call the tune. And if that's the case, St. Kitts may very well get geothermal power before us. Very well get it before us. Because we have no money to put in. Since we have changed the dynamic, we are now looking funding from CDB, which only can be accessed through the federal government, then crack smoke your pipe. We might not get it until after St. Kitts is completely satiated with geothermal. It's a real possibility because they're paying. They're the ones funding. My question then becomes simple. We have had special purpose vehicles for all CBI, for CBI. We have Hurricane Relief Fund. We have had the SIDF. We have had all kinds of special purpose vehicles to umbrella, I should call them umbrellas, to deal with CBI funding. Why is it that we don't find it necessary for something so critically important to say, listen, we are going to create an investment in CBI, through CBI for geothermal power. Let us use the money generated from that. Since it's 2/3 St. Kitts, 1/3 Nevis, let us use that money to fund geothermal development in Nevis. It seems to me a logical way out of this mess we are in, where we're not even certain how Nevis plays into this matrix and how we'll get benefit from it. But I'll tell you something else, we are talking about the raw generation of power, right? But the real money is not the generation of power. People think that's not the money. The real money comes from, you ready for this? The offtakes, fertilizers, hydrogen. Everybody in the world is now moving towards hydrogen fuel. That's the real money. Liquid hydrogen is going to power the world, going to power vehicles. And you have a plant that can produce it in copious amounts. That's where the money is. And so if you have the right arrangement with an investor who can step in with, say, $200 million, $300 million, you're pretty much home. Because you're selling a product the whole world wants, which you can produce very cheaply. Then you have the production of fertilizer, which is basically NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. Nitrogen is from the atmosphere. You can produce it in copious amounts, real cheap, and sell it on the world market. So there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, the heat, you can reverse it, and instead of getting heat, you get cold, because you can drive fans to cool air conditioners and cool water and all these kind of things. So the real money is in the after gas, after the energy. And so I think Dr. Drew understands that this is a money maker. This is a way to diversify your portfolio, your economy going forward. He sees it, and we are going to lose it because we have squandered everything.
Let me play the resolutions, because I want to make a point after the resolutions which were passed, the resolution that was passed in Parliament this week.
And I want to ask you a question too.
Entitled Resolution of the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis on Geothermal Energy. And Madam Speaker, I read, whereas the federal government of St. Christopher and Nevis and the Nevis Island Administration equally recognize the critical importance of energy security and the need to transition to sustainable and renewable energy sources. And whereas the federal government of St. Christopher and Nevis and the Nevis Island Administration are collaboratively pursuing the development of a geothermal project located at Vaughan's, Nevis, to enhance the Federation's energy resilience and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. And whereas the production of geothermal energy will be a significant step towards achieving the goal of full energy independence by harnessing the abundant geothermal resources in Nevis. And whereas the project has received contingently recoverable grant funding approval from the Caribbean Development Bank in the sum of $17 million US, that is, through the CDB's Special Funds resources allocated from funding from the Inter-American Development Bank Sustainable Energy Facility, the Green Climate Fund, and the Government of Italy for the development of the first set of production wells. And whereas the federal government and the Nevis Island Administration are committed to ensuring that the benefits of the project extend to all citizens and residents of St. Christopher and Nevis. And whereas the successful implementation of the project is anticipated to contribute to lower energy prices, economic growth, and job creation across the Federation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis, that 1, the National Assembly acknowledges the potential of the project to enhance energy security, reduce reliance on fossil fuels, and promote sustainable economic development. 2, the National Assembly expresses its support for collaborative efforts between the federal government and the Nevis Island Administration in the pursuit of geothermal energy development and the project. 3, the National Assembly affirms that the benefits to be derived from the project shall extend to all citizens and residents of St. Christopher and Nevis. And 4, the National Assembly commends the partnership with regional organizations, including the Caribbean Development Bank, the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, and the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, and supports continued collaboration with relevant stakeholders to ensure the success of the project. And lastly, 5, National Assembly expresses confidence that the project will contribute significantly to achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and advancing the Federation's commitment to a future of clean, affordable, and renewable energy in its transition into a sustainable island state. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, this is the resolution put before the National Assembly on the...
Innocent enough. I just wanted to play that to get it on the record because I want to tell you, look forward to another document coming out from that, following on that. The other one will be a partnership agreement, which is going to specify how much who gets. But that will not be complete unless you play the Premier of Nevis and his presentation. And I'm not going to tell you what he said. Just listen for a bit.
On what I consider to be an historic occasion in the life and times of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to start by thanking the Honorable Prime Minister and the government for bringing this resolution. The resolution goes far beyond what it says. I think I want to speak to what the resolution portends for the sustainable island state that we keep hearing about. You know, in a very strange way, and I hope not to be controversial, but in a strange way, if this geothermal resource were located in Sandy Point, it would have been developed a long time ago. If it were an old road, it would have been developed a long time ago. The problem with geothermal is that it's in Nevis.
Gentlemen, I'm going to stop there. 2 things. 1, I hope not to be controversial. Anytime you hear that from Mark Brantley, know that he is bringing up controversial stuff. So if Mark Brantley ever meet you and tell you, listen, I love you, you know, watch his hands. Because he either has something in his hand where he's going to hurt you, or he already set up somebody to hurt you. Okay? Just watch him closely. The second point, if this geothermal were in Old Road, or wherever in St. Kitts, it would have been developed already. Mark Brantley, the geothermal in Nevis, if NRP were in power, we would be using geothermal energy now. The reason why we don't have geothermal energy is because CCM did everything possible to derail the geothermal project here in Nevis.
Everything.
Everything when they were in the opposition. And I want people to understand that. And I want anybody to challenge me. Meet me any place, have a debate with me, and let us discuss the facts. Remember that this Mark Brantley in 2012 campaigned he would flick the switch. Remember, he went all over the world telling people that Nevis is going to be the greenest place. Remember that in 2017, they had the most elaborate trick that has ever been worked on Nevis people. Where they brought a drill rig here from Middle America and spent upwards of $5 million just to have a stage show up at Hamilton. Cutting of ribbon and all that kind of stuff. And to tell the people, after the elections, we are going to be drilling in January. This was in December. They won the elections in December. And what happened? All the rig and most of the containers left. They left 2 old containers up there.
But before that, prior to that, during the Joseph Parry time with West Indies Power, what was this 40? Oh, Nevis going to blow up.
Oh, yes.
Here's where I was going. Go ahead.
Yep. Nevis going to blow up because I interfering with God's earth. They went as far as to write to the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador, embassy in Barbados. They went as far as to write to the Export-Import Bank in Washington, D.C., telling the U.S. government, don't support geothermal because we don't interfere with U.S. business people. And now he's coming talking about if this was an old road. My brother, you were in Parliament when the then government, the new incoming government you're part of, announced to the world that they're exploring geothermal in St. Kitts.
I say he didn't know.
And what they say? It's not competition.
It's complementary.
It's complementary.
That's one summary.
All right?
But remember, he was asked the question.
Okay.
And he said, listen, I don't know anything about that. Ask Patches. Ask and Labor. That's his ministry.
Right.
But listen, these fellows, I am not going to tell you that they did not do anything for geothermal. Let us look at it as an expensive mistake that they did.
And
I'm sorry, may I ask, was that during the 2008 or
no, the last
2017?
The last well that was drilled at Hamilton. The very last well. That's why I'm asking if they're going to drill again, since they were drilling activities just recently.
Yes.
2018 or something.
Yeah. May I comment, Ricardo? Yes. So with the wells we're gonna. From what I understand from the literature regarding that well, there may have been some issues with it. I won't speak to the specifics. I have some experts online who can speak better. But that well was not, as far as I know, drilled according to best practice or best standard. So, in fact, so what we're going to be doing is going to be much different. It's going to be according to international best practices, and we're going to make sure we have suitably qualified contractors. Somebody raised a question about those. Those were what we call slim wells, smaller wells, which were mainly used to test the resource. The ones we're going to do now are bigger wells, which will be used to provide the energy to drive the power plant. So we're going for the real thing this time. But in doing that, and in the interest of transparency, again, I'll tell you, we first did an assessment of those wells on the site. I mentioned drilling engineers that we have on board from Geothermics and from New Zealand, and they identified certain issues with that well. And the older one, because of its age and possible corrosion, may also have some challenges. So for that particular last well, what we have established is before we even start doing the larger production wells now, we have to do what is called plug and abandon for that well, meaning we're going to seal it off, pour concrete down, but it has to be done in a responsible manner because that well is not, I think, was not done according to the standard that we desire. So there are some issues. If you look at the site now, you'll notice we have fenced it around because we don't want people to access it. It was not done to the standard that we want, and so we are gonna plug and abandon it. And the next wells will be of a totally different standard.
These guys spent $7 million on a well that has to be abandoned, plugged and abandoned. Now, here is the next question. We've been hearing about this 17 million US dollars from the Caribbean Development Bank. Any left?
But
any of that 17 million US dollars is left?
But
I don't know.
Carla, it goes back again to the question of procurement. How did they find these people? Where did they find these people from? I mean, where they went to a crackerjack box and picked out a name? How did they find persons who cannot drill to the specifications that the general manager of Nevlec is speaking to?
It was about getting specification or
But
fooling people.
you are spending millions of people's money. You would want to ensure that you get value for money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it is incumbent on the government to make sure they have qualified people doing
Absolutely.
the work.
You notice the only criticism they had of the well that was drilled under NRP. It is old.
It is old. Right? And so
Not that it wasn't done properly. It is old.
who is being held accountable for this? Who is going to refund the people of Nevis for this mistake? This beefsteak. Not even a mistake, a beefsteak. Who is going to refund us?
Daily stick up in. Tulu stick up in because I want to play Daily's favorite guy.
I believe I am excited about this because since 2004 I've been hearing about geothermal. I believe I'm correct. Member for Nevis 9 can correct me. I was once the Minister of Energy in Nevis too, and I was 2013 to 2017 was also behind this geothermal thing. And we have been trying. And there have been efforts made from all quarters to derail this project. But I believe we are back on track now.
But anyway, I ain't gonna touch geothermal because as far as I'm concerned, geothermal is on the back burner for now. So let's not try and resurrect it by talking about it and wasting energy on it, because nothing is in it for me. I leave that.
Is the last part is the most interesting part, you know.
For me.
Nothing is in it for me.
Who said that?
That's Alexis
Mr.
Jeffers.
Sosa.
No, I could identify the voice. It's Alexis Jeffers. Nothing is in it for me.
I'm itching to ask you a question. You spoke about the well that West Indies Power dug.
They actually did three.
How much did it cost the Nevis Island administration?
Not a cent. The arrangement was totally different. That is why I took pains at the start of my discussions to tell the people that the arrangements are different. West Indies Power Limited came up with their funding to do all of these slim wells. Not the Nevis Island administration. Didn't cost us.
But the Nevis Island administration, led by Mark Grantley, dug one well, was not dug according to specification, has to be abandoned, and you're saying that it cost
us money,
about $5 to $7 million?
Boy, the true figures are being hidden. I suspect that it is upwards of $5 million.
We had 3 wells that cost us nothing.
Not a cent.
They gave us one that is of no value and cost us maybe $5 million and more dollars.
And not only that, I want you to understand that the $17 million from the Caribbean Development Bank, and you heard the Premier, you heard Dr. Joe, listen, the resolution that was tabled in the Federal Parliament is the Federal Parliament's way of saying, listen, let us start laying the foundation for protecting ourselves. Look for a little grab coming later. They are protecting themselves. You think that letter of comfort came for free? That letter of comfort, which you can call a guarantee, is coming at a price. This is the federal government saying, listen, you want our money to develop this thing? You want us to give you a guarantee, which is that letter to the Caribbean Development Bank? Partner, we're going in the federal parliament and we'll pass these resolutions. Look for part 2. This is Act 1, Part 1. Look for part 2 coming up next. I remember that I told you so.
The game is over. You know. The game is over. Nevis has lost. Nevis doesn't even have a dry limb to stand on when it comes to geothermal anymore. Nothing. There's no game left. The NIA has no money to bargain with. They cannot give an equal share of anything or part share of anything. And so they are in no position to negotiate. They are in no position of strength to negotiate. None. And people must understand the dynamic of our federal government. It's not really a federal government, it's a local government on St. Kitts. They have their constituents to answer to. And so when this power comes and the switch is thrown and elections are around the corner, guess whose house is going to be lit first? From 1 to 8 to 9 and then perhaps 10, 11 and 12.
However we go
9, 10, 11, sorry. Right? It is, listen, we have said all along, and I'll keep saying, all right, that this is a resource that's going to take us into the future. I've said it, and we all recognize it. And this is a resource that the administration in St. Kitts wants to control at all costs. At all costs.
If they put any money into it, then they should control it.
Listen, I'm not arguing with them. I'm just saying that we here on Nevis, where the resource is located, are in no position to bargain for anything. Because we're not paying anything. We have nothing to pay with. We had $500 million coming to us. Where is it? In some bank in Caymans? I don't know where it is. Can't be found. But you consider $17 million loan from CDB. 17 times 3, that's the easy maths is what? 73 is 21, $51 million. We had $500 million. We could have easily paid if we had been more frugal and more judicious with our money. And if you're talking about fair share, let's go back to that for a moment. If we get an accounting, and Brantley has said, I think I remember him saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that's between $7 and $9 billion have been generated from CBI. Well, if Perry got nothing, and he got $500 million, and we are guaranteed by the Constitution on a pro rata population basis, at least 22%, or something close to 20. That, right? Then there's a provision in the Constitution that says, listen, if you owe me, you must pay me. So why is it that no move is being made to reconcile that difference in monies received from Nevis and monies received into the Federation through CBI? There's a mechanism in the Constitution, I think it's 112, that says, hey, if we can't agree as gentlemen, we go to arbitration in the court. So if we are indeed talking about fair share as part of our development matrix, then perhaps we need to examine that going forward as a way to pay our way without St. Kitts hogging the whole thing.
I think another point that needs to be made, that CCM, Mark Brantley in his own voice, and Alexis Jeffers in his, they represent the only two persons that I've heard in politics in Nevis that were detractors to this geothermal project. Mark Brantley is on record in saying, and Daly, you're right, that geothermal is going to cause earthquake and it's going to break up people's house and what's not. He was discouraging people from supporting the geothermal project. We hear Alexis just a while in his own voice that geothermal basically dead, is no way because nothing in it for him. Okay? And so those are the only voices from Nevis that we have heard condemning or rejecting geothermal. But yet, today they're saying that there are voices in Nevis that want to give people the impression that somehow NRP is against geothermal for Nevis.
When that happened?
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but when has that been happening?
It has never happened. Oh. But just in case that there is one person out there who is convinced, we must know that it's in their own voice. They're on record fighting against geothermal in Nevis.
What did the Prime Minister of Trinidad say?
person, a government who blamed the opposition for their failures, has basically acknowledged that what happened with the last part of it.
They have acknowledged they cannot solve the problem going forward.
Okay.
All right. The former the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago said it clearly. If you keep going back to blame the opposition, even though we can't be blamed in this case, but it seems to be a modus operandi of the government that everything that they can get solved, every time they have a step backwards, is NRP's fault. I would be ashamed, gentlemen, to having had the reins of power since 2013, 10 years later, you're still saying it's NRP fault. Huh?
The Premier of Nevis operates from the playbook of his partner over in Antigua. It's a very, very, very identical thing that is taking place over there. But it's Nevis so I'm talking about Nevis.
Gentlemen, let me play the ad. Make sure that our people at Kangen Water are happy with us. When we come back, it's already showing 9:36. I want to look at an update on the hospital and an update on revenue sharing from the press conference today. But we'll do that when we come back after this.
Do you know what you're drinking? If you are drinking plastic bottled water, chances are you're consuming plastic contaminants, BPA, and other hormone disrupting chemicals you cannot see with your naked eye. Those empty plastic bottles take up to 450 years to decompose. In the meantime, plastic bottles are polluting the environment. They are dangerous to the planet and our health. The safer solution is to acquire your own Kangen alkaline water filtration system, and you'll never have to buy toxic bottled water again. Help save the planet and drink clean water for less than the price you'll pay for acid plastic bottled water over the next few years. The Kangen technology is the world's most popular, most acquired water immunizer. For more information, you can call or WhatsApp us on 917-207-1307. That's 917-207-1307. Change your water, change your life.
The Alexandra Hospital, there's no change. We are, I believe, in the final stages now of the long-awaited quantity surveys on the interior. I think the year is closing. In fact, we're going to go into a new budget. The dates are fixed already in Nevis. We're going to have the budget reading on the 5th of December. And so I anticipate, Ms. Thompson, that in that budget we will make provisions for 2024 for the completion of that project. We lost this year because of those difficulties that we have that I've spoken about time and time again here. We finally were able to get reputable persons to do the work for us that was asked to be done elsewhere and wasn't done. And we expect to have that in hand shortly. As soon as we have that, the contractors are already on alert, we're ready to go. So this budget will have a significant allocation for the hospital project. In fact, I can tell you that it will be the principal capital project for the government in the coming year.
Gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I'm nervous. The hospital has already cost us, in my own reckoning, about $30 million. The Premier said at his press conference that a significant allocation will be made for the hospital project. Anybody want to bet that they are going to allocate about between 30 and 40 million for the hospital in addition to what has been spent? And I'm getting some numbers from St. Lucia because there is a parallel here. Contacted a friend of mine in St. Lucia and I asked him to give me some numbers on the St. Jude's Hospital, because they have just announced that they are going to be putting in another $200 million to finish the St. Jude's Hospital. The Nevis Hospital was budgeted at $19 million. Some say 18, some say 19. The Premier, long after the budget had been done, and long after we had quarreled as to whether or not it was 8 million, whether or not it was 14, 15 million dollars, they have now said about $17 million, between 17 and 20. We're saying 30. You want to hear a joke? That 30 didn't include one single piece of equipment. It didn't include the cost of finishing the building. The outside looks finished. I'm told that there is a tremendous amount of work to be done on the inside. Plus the equipment. They're hoping to finish next year, but they've been saying that since 2017. Remember, this was supposed to be a 24-month project, so it should have been done in 2019. A significant allocation for the hospital. If this hospital in Nevis is finished under $100 million, including the equipment, I would say that we won. It can't happen.
Let me say this. All right, because it is shocking that this government is still standing. Seriously speaking, from all of the trials and tribulations that have dragged this country down, I'm surprised this government is still standing. I'm really shocked, actually. Because he's trying to put the best blackface on this white elephant up there at the hospital. He's now saying that they're in the last stages of the quantity survey, and that once the year starts and significant funds roll in, they're going to finish in 1 year. Okay. We'll see. But the problem here is this. All right? There are some other things that are wrong. Let's go back to the beginning where he said that, last press conference, they're looking to see whether they can recover this money through legal means to sue the person and Sinkits who did not provide. We have not heard any update on that.
He did not even know who he...
and we all know nobody existed.
Okay.
All right? It's all a fantasy. But he went and hired some people from the United States. He didn't say how much. I think they signed a contract sometime 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We don't know the value of the contract to do the quantity survey.
About $500,000.
Okay. All right. So that would have come from the 19 million, I'm supposing. But last year, in this year's budget, they put aside $12 million to do the hospital. The question is where they're going to get the money. If they're going to put in significantly more than the 12, and 12 was a stretch, I remember 10 of the 12, they were trying to borrow from Social Security.
Dr. Daly, you're a smart man. Truly, you're a smart man. You just hit the nail on the head, and I don't even think that you realize you provided the answer. They put $12 million in the budget, of which they were trying to borrow 10. Good God, you have the answer in front of you. That is the reason why no work was done on the hospital for a whole year.
No money there.
No money there.
They don't have the money.
So you listen. Remember, with this with any government and budgets, the money is on paper. You now have to go and raise the money. Mark Brantley provided the answer. They had no money to work this year. And I know, I was home and I was looking, I lost a quart, I was looking for the quart. Mark Brantley lose a whole year. Where you going to find it? He lose a whole year, I only lose a quart.
You found your quart?
I find me the quart. Yeah, the chair was laying down here.
But he can't find it?
Can't find a whole year. He said we lose a whole year.
But the thing about it, he went to try to borrow 30 million from Social Security. Didn't get through, didn't get a dime. And 10 million of that was to go to the hospital and some for the road project and other things. He eventually got 11 million from Bank of Nevis to the road to pay off Surrey paving for the road. And so he had nothing left. So if he's going to inject significant funds for this year, the question must be asked, where is he going to get the money? Is he going to cut from other ministries, from health, not from health, from public works, from agriculture, education? Where is he going to get the money from? He has to get it from somewhere, because
taxes?
he cannot borrow. He got a lifeline thrown to him by Bank of Nevis a couple of weeks ago. They extended his overdraft because I understand it. The feeling was they can't. The management of the bank felt that they couldn't leave Nevis people hanging in the lurch because of the incompetence of this man, and so they agreed they bit their tongue and agreed to extend the overdraft of the NIA.
To help Nevis.
To help Nevis. Not to help him, but to help Nevis. Right? So that overdraft has been extended. They have no capacity to borrow from anybody. So maybe this water rate increase that we're expecting to come in January or February of next year will come to help finance the hospital because they have no borrow.
Or is he going to raise taxes?
And don't forget, come January 1st or 2nd, beginning of the cycle, the public servants of Nevis was promised a 5% pay increase.
Where you get it from?
We will see.
But then, I'm saying that perhaps raising taxes, because that is what Gaston is now proposing for Antigua, that he is going to raise, what they call it, BST, okay, what we call VAT. He might put it up by another 2%, because he says that he has to recover revenue portion of millions of dollars that he borrowed. He has to be paid for.
But Nevis can't raise VAT,
Well, no, raise taxes some other way. He gonna raise that, but that's a possibility. We can't put it past them. But people need to understand, gentlemen, that the foundation for this fiasco that we have with the hospital was done bad. It was ill thought out. It was ill. What do you call that? Conceived. When the government decided that they're going to give Spencer Brand the authority or the responsibility to design this thing and paying hefty, it started wrong from there, and we are continuing going wrong till now.
Why is Spencer Brand still a minister?
Because he was elected.
No, I mean he could be a minister without portfolio, right, Caroline?
Mm-hmm.
The minister, the premier assigns portfolios. He could be a minister without portfolio.
But the Prime Minister is no more knowledgeable than Spencer.
But
he's no better than
Spencer.
Spencer.
Talking about that. We have a royal mock-up that costing the taxpayers in Nevis significant.
Blame the Premier, because the Premier knew. I'm convinced that he knew that Spencer did not have the capacity to design a hospital. It was not about the hospital, It was about money.
We all know that Mr. Brand should have never taken the assignment.
He should not have taken it.
We all know that. The fact that
But an election was coming up and he needed money.
He needed money. We all understand that part of it. Right? When ostensibly, and as we are told, and we suspect that Troy Liebert was not towing the line properly as the junior minister for St. John's up there, he was demoted.
So he should demote Spencer too.
Good evening, caller.
Hey, good night. I just read to him, right? But I've been listening, I've been analyzing. Venomous snake. Two venomous snakes. Here it says NIA December. Key political parties to start. 2 of the 3, 1 got 3, 1 got 2. Automatically, party that got the 2 seats must be the opposition. But I'll tell you something, this is my kind of thinking. Relay team composed of 4 persons who taking part in the 4x100 in the race. But they have an alternative. Farmer captain was demoted to vice captain. They all agreed go to the campaign, and after the result of the election campaign, the farmer captain was not in agreement with the alternate, all because that individual refused to agree with the alternate. That's the reason why Nevis is in the position that they are in today. And I want to tell anybody, there's no way you have to take this. Take it to the court, because she campaigned on NRP ticket. So how is it now today? Something is wrong, When Mr. Daly said, covering his behind. He's involved in corruption, and he does not want it to be exposed. Once a member of NRP become part of that, he's going to be exposed. Many of you understand what you just said, you know.
Caller,
Have you understood what I just said?
Caller, you're gonna have to catch me next week because it's 9:50, and these guys, their closing statements just take more than 10 minutes. So I'm gonna thank you for your call, but tell you catch us early next week because we got to get off by 10 o'clock. Okay, great.
I'll do that again with respect.
Thank you very much. Listen, the Integrity in Public Life bill and the commission and all of that is to help us to weed out corruption. If any member of the government is involved in corruption or anybody in public life, this is supposed to catch them and to stop them and to rectify the matter. Until such time that they prove that they corrupt and they involve in corruption, all we can do is say we believe that they involve in corruption. And we believe that the government is corrupt, and there is enough evidence in some situations to suggest that what some of these guys doing can't be right. I wanted to get into the airport matter tonight, but we'll save that until next week, and we have some other very juicy clips that we wanted to play for you. One thing that I want to point out is that in Mark Brantley's rant 2 Wednesdays ago, he threatened, he promised that information would be coming, and the MSR letter came shortly thereafter. I heard something from Doya Stefan. It seemed like people knew. It seemed like the plot was coordinated. Let me just say that. I don't think that this was anything abstract. The second thing is that the Premier threatened to expose stuff that happened in cabinet, in the federal cabinet. But when you go into government and so on, you take an oath that you are not going to release those kinds of information. So I believe that Mark is talking about maturity. How mature are you when you will take information from inside the cabinet to expose because you and somebody in there fell out? It don't make no sense to me, but then again, he don't make sense to me either. Tulu?
Well, back at the hospital, and all I'm going to say here is that we are in the position that we are in because there was no decency in the first place in putting this project together. The project should not have been given to Mr. Brand to do the designs because Mr. Brand does not possess the expertise to design that hospital. Mr. Brown should have known that he did not have the expertise, and if he wanted to pass it on to somebody else who have the expertise, it should have been done that way rather than taking it on himself when he know that he's not qualified. And so we, the people of Nevis, are suffering today because of the fact that the Nevis Island administration embark upon an $18 million project, or maybe $90 million project, without any proper thought. And we must ask the question, was it truly about giving us a state-of-the-art hospital, the brainchild, or that is secondary? That the first thing there was to make sure that somebody had money to run a political campaign? This is something for us to consider. But we are here because of the incompetence of the Nevis Island administration headed by Mark Brantley. Good night.
Dr. Daly.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure, of course, sharing my time with you. And let me again extend to those who are celebrating Thanksgiving, remember us down here in the studio, you ain't got no food, eh? Anyway, on a serious note, I couldn't close out this evening, and I'm sorry we didn't get to the airport because it is preeminent in my mind. So I'll use my closing remarks to remind people of Nevis what is happening at the Vance Amory International Airport. All right? The deal that was signed by the NIA and Mr. Patrick Drahi is a bad deal. It's a terrible deal. It's an obnoxious deal. It's a dangerous deal. A deal that should never have happened. We are responsible as a people now for, in the first instance, a 22-year deal. 15 years up front, 7 years on the back. For a private development. For a man to get a place to park his plane. But yet we are paying for all maintenance, all labor, all utilities. We are paying to relocate families. We are paying to buy land, to redirect the road. All while Blue Airports Limited will be responsible for extending the runway, building the hangars, fire tenders, etc., etc. This deal shall never happen. It's taking away our sovereignty, our national identity. It's a dangerous, disgusting deal. And I dare anybody to challenge me on that. This deal should never have happened the way it has happened. How can you have a deal so lopsided? Who in the world would sign a contract for a mortgage with a bank or any lending institution for 15 years and then come back and say, you know what, after you don't pay me off, put another 7 years on that? Because I loaned you the money at a lower rate than normal and therefore I need to recover every cent. In the meantime, 70 cents of every dollar I make net goes to me and 30 cents to you. But you're paying all the bills. You're paying all the bills from your 30%. All maintenance, labor, utilities, you're paying that. All those lands that you have to acquire, you're paying that from your 30%. Only a fool could sign such a deal. Only a desperate fool could say that this is a good deal. Can't be. This is a billionaire who is accustomed to make deals and get his way. And we have a premier who is enthralled by the sight of power and wealth. Because he wants to be like that. And so he rolls over and sells the country to the highest bidder. All because a man wants to land his jet and have a place to park the jet at Vance Amory International. We must pay the price for that. For 30%. For 30%. And we don't even know how much they make. We have to rely on them to tell us that they made $1. Because they have agreed again to reformulate the management at the airport. So they put their people on the board, which we have to pay for. I want people to understand what's going on.
And that prices that they will tell you.
Of course.
So if you're accustomed to paying the airport manager a little $5,000 a month, they might say no.
5,000
or what?
US?
Yes.
And we have to pay them.
We got
Of
to pay.
course. That's what we're saying for.
This is what I'm trying to tell people. This is a terrible, terrible deal. Where else in the Caribbean? Where else in the Caribbean? From South Trinidad, Guyana, come all the way up to the north, Bahamas and Caymans and those places. Where else has any government relinquished control of a single airspace to a foreign entity? Where else? Why have we done it? Is another important question. Why have we done it? Why Drahi? Why not enter into agreement with Casper So the federal government said, listen, let's make a deal here. We can't manage, but we want to maintain the integrity of our airport. Why not try something else? 26 million US dollars is about 70 million East dollars. You're trying to tell me, having had sight of $500 million, during the same period of time that negotiations were going on, you could not see, to find 26 million US dollars to do what you want to do? It is tiring, my friends. It is exhausting trying to keep up with the nonsense of this government. It is exhausting that we are fighting tooth and nail in this country, for the people of this country. And I do hope they understand what's on the line. And so, you see, when you have platforms like 2020 Vision Radio, the voice of the people, the voice of truth and conviction, the effort is to close it down. Shut up those voices. And we see it every day. We see the efforts. So it's up to us to fight the battle, to keep you abreast of what's happening in your lovely country. And it is indeed nice, and it's worth fighting for. It's worth getting back from the grasp of these despots, these persons who don't care one way or next about divisions. And so the fight continues. The fight continues. And the fight will continue. Good night. God bless.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to continue just where Daly left off. Just to tell you that according to the Premier, the town hall meeting and the airport will be right here in Charlestown at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Church Hall. And it is expected to be on the 4th of December, which is a Monday. And it should start at 6 p.m. I plan to be there because I want, they said that the drawings will be available. I want to be able to go to see for myself and to ask some questions so that I could get some knowledge as to what's happening. And I want to be able to find out from the architects and the designers exactly how many feet we are going east and how many feet west. And other questions which I'll have. Nevis is sitting back and waiting for the budget debate on the 5th. Because the Premier has already said to us that Nevis is running on fumes. We are already over $500 million in debt. But what is frightening is the fact that under Joseph Parry, they tell me that the debt, the wage bill, was about $5 million a month. Gentlemen, I heard the Premier in his own voice saying that our wage bill is upwards of $8 million a month. It is now costing us just under $100 million because they have bloated the public service. That is the real reason. You have gone from $5 million a month to $8-point-something million a month. And there are people who are on the government payroll who are not working, have not worked a single day for the government for the year so far. I went to a particular ministry where they told me that office down there belong to so and so, but she don't really come in. But she's paid. She's on the payroll. And that is only one isolated incident. There are people who are on the government payroll who are being paid, who do not report to work and then do a lick of work for the government. And then you want to wonder why it is that the wage bill in Nevis is at $97 million a year. But there's your answer. It's plain and simple. And these fellows don't care because they could afford to pay people for votes. But next week when we come, we are going to play a video from the Bahamas where there was a gentleman who was telling people, come, see me. $50,000 in cash, in US money. You know what happened to him? police lock him up.
True.
Yeah, we have the video, but we just don't have time
I
tonight.
saw the
We're gonna play
video,
it
but
next
I
week.
didn't know that they lock him up.
Oh yes. At the end of the video, go back to the end of the video and you will see where they locked him up. But listen, as usual, it was our pleasure to be with you tonight. Those of you who were eating, just remember Paul say in the studio, we just had our hot chocolate. But we are happy that you spent some time with us on this Thanksgiving evening, and we look forward to joining you again next week. Until then, please be good, please be safe.
Do you know what you're drinking? If you are drinking plastic bottled water, chances are you're consuming plastic contaminants, BPA, and other hormone disrupting chemicals you cannot see with your naked eye. Those empty plastic bottles take up to 450 years to decompose. In the meantime, plastic bottles are polluting the environment. They are dangerous to the planet and our health. The safer solution is to acquire your own Kangen alkaline water filtration system, and you'll never have to